the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial, and be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. The Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
Every step of the way, we've heard John Ashcroft tell the public, trust us, we're the government. And yet he refuses to release important information that the public needs in order to understand what's at stake.
In your new book, you have defended some of the more imposing efforts to fight terror and terrorism, and this subject is particularly relevant right now because the president is set to sign the Military Commissions Act tomorrow, which is going to codify some of those efforts into law. I'd like to read one of the definitions in the act and ask you a hypothetical about it, if I may. The term unlawful enemy combatant means a person who has engaged in hostilities or who has purposefully and materially supported hostilities against the United States or its co-belligerents who is not a lawful enemy combatant. What is there in this new law that would check the president or any president, not in terms of tradition nor in terms of common sense nor even in terms of fear of bad publicity, but in that measure itself? If a president claims that you or I materially supported hostilities against America and declares us unlawful enemy combatants, and he wants to send you and I off to Guantanamo Bay, where in the law does it say the president can't do that?
Well, let me just first indicate that I have not read this new statute in its completeness. I do believe that the president should have the authority to designate individuals who bear arms or take up hostility against the United States as enemy combatants. I think in doing so, the president has a responsibility to have a process that is consistent with the Constitution. We have a president, we don't have a king, and he has to make a determination based on facts. Holding anyone who is bearing arms against the United States, pending the outcome of the conflict, or against any country, is long recognized as something that's part of having war. And when you have a war, you've got to be able to take prisoners. If you don't, the alternative is to kill all the people that you encounter, and certainly that's not what we want done. So the ability of a president to apprehend those fighting against the country and to take them out of the stream of conflict so that they're not fighting our own flesh and blood, representing the country in the defense of freedom, is a humanitarian thing, to move them out of the stream rather than to reinsert them with an ability to, again, assault our own people.
But to flip Archibald Cox's old bromide on its head from the Watergate days, is there not a risk in this of this country becoming a nation of men and not laws, rather than laws and not men?
Well, I really don't think so. It's a risk that we've endured now for well over 200 years. Presidents in all kinds of conflicts have supervised the executive branch defense of the United States, and when they have encountered an enemy and they haven't killed the enemy and the enemy has surrendered, we've taken them as prisoners, or when we have captured enemy, we've taken them as prisoners and we detain them pending the outcome of the conflict. And I believe it would be morally wrong to release them to take another shot at our team, so to speak. And it is part and parcel of the responsibility of responsible war-making entities, let alone a terrorist, but any war-making that's done in defense of a culture or society involves taking prisoners and maintaining them till the outcome has been determined.
When Donald Rumsfeld was asked how long can these people be held, he said, as long as the war on terrorism lasts. Then they asked him, when will we know when the war on terrorism is over? He said, when there are no longer any terrorist organizations of potentially global reach left in the world. Now, all of us have potentially global reach today, and we're never going to eliminate political violence from the face of the earth. So what he's essentially saying is that we can hold these people forever, without ever charging them with anything, without ever giving them a hearing of any kind.